What's up, everybody? I got a pretty cool idea here. Been doing a little bit of woodworking this summer in my spare time, and right before season I got an idea to make it. I don't think I've ever seen this done before. It is I'm gonna make a epoxy resin river table, and I'm gonna do, don't mind me sweating my butt off, by the way, I'm gonna do basically through the middle of the epoxy resin I am going to put leaves down, and a Levi Morgan, kind of the Bow Life inspired. That's kind of one of the guys I've watched, one of the shows I've watched getting going into hunting and stuff. Been a big fan of him for years, and I kind of copy some of his arrow ideas. So I'm gonna put it basically a Levi Morgan inspired, you know, basically a copycat arrow of his through the middle of the table, and I'm going to put it on oak leaves. So I have I'm going to have 2 slabs of this cedar that I milled with my chainsaw mill. I'm going to do 2 slabs. I'm going to lay down oak leaves, and then I'm going to lay down the arrow and kind of mimic, you know, kind of an oak flat, like a arrow shot through a deer. There's going to be fake blood sprayed onto it, and then I got a little bit of deer hair from like a mount that I had that came off, so I'm going to kind of put that a little bit on the ground in there too. But it's going to be a hunting inspired, Levi Morgan inspired epoxy resin table that's going to be my desk. Now, be cool if I could make, I've been slabbing this wood. I got a buddy who's in the tree industry, and so I always ask him for cedar or walnut, and I'm really getting into this stuff. So hopefully after this table's done, it'll be cool enough that, you know, if anybody else likes this or they want to order one from me, I would have no problem putting one together. You know, send me your arrow, send me whatever your idea is. I mean, people do this all over on the internet, but I'm just getting into it, and I got some pretty good ideas. This is one of them. Hopefully I'll have it done before the season here, and I'm going to make a video of the progress of this table over the next couple weeks. Check it out, and thanks for watching our page. We got some hunts coming up here, some big hunts. We got one guy, my brother Jake, is going to Canada with Oz. They're gonna go throw down on some bear archery footage. I think my dad's gonna go with a crossbow. So yeah, we got some good stuff coming up for you guys. This will be something to kind of kick this season's videos off. It's just a little fun project, trying to kill time. You know, we got to get organized, get ready for the season, but this is our kind of what we do in our spare time. Hopefully you like it. Just cut the boards down right there. That's one of them. I got 2. They're the same length. They're 38 and a 7/8 inch, so just about 39 inches, but that'll give me some room to sand it down. And I'm going to put a 32-inch arrow through the middle of it, so should give me a little room in between there. But I'm liking how I cut it, and it should be good to go here. You're going to plane it down a little bit. Got my initial sanding done on the wood here. As you can see, it's not, you know, I just used a 60 grit and then my orbital sander 60 grit. And I'm going to leave the inside of this really natural looking, kind of. All of the or these 2 slabs around, because this is the inside of my river pour, and you want to seal this with some quick coat epoxy. I'm just sealing it the night before, that way you can get a good seal. But that way when you do the thick pour, it doesn't soak into the wood. So this will kind of keep that from soaking into the wood. I got this side done. Obviously this piece is flipped and that piece is flipped, and the river will be in the middle, but here's the other inside piece right here, or inside edge. And you know, then I had a little extra epoxy. These things are a good buy. They're on Amazon. You can buy like a 4-pack of coasters. And basically, whenever you have extra, you can add some of that mica powder, whatever this stuff is. Pretty cheap stuff. But you add that to whatever leftover epoxy. I made a little too much because I didn't know what I was going to need. And then you can, you can add swirls in it. You can do whatever. I just made a couple quick coasters, 2 different sizes, because I wanted to see, what we got for durability in terms of coasters with this epoxy. But yeah, got the inside, everything's sanded. I got all the, it's really tough. I don't know what this is on the wood. I wish I could get it out of there. But, I'm going to play with it and kind of let it, this is just my first try at it, and I think I got a pretty good idea, with what I'm doing, but, I don't expect it to be anything worth, the $10,000 of river tables that you see on, if you Google river tables. Some of them go for ridiculous money. But these 2 slabs will be flipped over, and I'm going to build the frame tomorrow. Hopefully everything's nice and squared up, and then get everything ready for, I'm going to make the arrow tonight and get the fake blood I got up at Party City. I got some fake Halloween blood. I'm going to put that on the arrow tonight so it's dry. We should be good to go moving forward tomorrow. Okay, I just made the mock, obviously this isn't the actual Levi Morgan, one of his arrows, but I got the white on white tack veins. I don't know what knock he uses honestly, but I use the green Luminox, so I'm using a green gold tip knock. The Hunter Pros, and then his signature broadhead here. So like I said, I'm doing a little bit of a copycat arrow in the middle of this epoxy resin table. And then I just went up to Party City, got some fake blood. I've never done this, so I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm going to put this, I'm going to coat the arrow like it just got a clean pass through. Real light, nothing too gory or crazy, but us deer hunters, that's a sign of success, so that's what I'm going for. And then I'm going to put some drops of this on, I have quite a few oak leaves, and I got to go get more from outside, but I'm going to put some drops on these leaves to show the start of a blood trail underneath it. But here's the mock arrow, about to coat it with this blood here, fake blood. See how it goes. Alright, so this actually looks pretty good. I think that'll look sweet on some leaves. I'm going to see what it looks like on the arrow here, and hopefully I don't have to wash this off and redo it, but we'll see. Oh yeah, that's gonna be perfect. It's even gonna look like it has bubbles in it for real. How cool is that gonna look? Like I said, I didn't want it to be anything too crazy gory, but obviously it's got to dry. We'll see what it ends up looking like there, but heck, we'll even get the knock. I'll get that backside in a bit here. How sweet is this looking? We'll see what it does on the broadhead here. I'm gonna put the camera down and coat this thing, and then I'll show you guys when I'm done. Looking sweet though. Alright, I got it coated. I'll probably have to do another coat, I would guess. We're gonna see how it dries. It's just hard to get it on the broadhead, but I think that turned out pretty freaking sweet there. Got some on the Hunter Pro, etc. So, and then I'm working on some of these leaves that are gonna go under it. I mean, heck, you could trick a buddy if they missed a deer that they shot one with this stuff. That's kind of messed up, but yeah, we'll see how this dries. I mean, I'm just playing with it. This is an experiment here, and maybe when that might help. There we go. Let's see how it dries, I guess, and then this is like a cosmetic thing, so maybe I just gotta load it. See what, look at how it's just sitting there. Hopefully it dries like that. It's so cool. Now I don't know what this will look like inside the epoxy, but we're winging this thing. Hopefully it turns out pretty sweet. Alright, so this stuff did not work. It just kept wiping off of the arrow. So what I did was I got some enamel paint, kind of some model car glossier paint, and I mixed them until I found a pretty decent color for the red. And then as you can see, I kind of repainted it. I think this looks a little better, and I think this will give a better look through the epoxy. This other stuff, it worked really well. This stuff worked well on the leaves, when it dried on the leaves that I did, but on the arrow it was just basically coming off. So we got, hopefully it looks kind of like that heart shot red, blood passed through. We'll see as it dries though what it ends up looking like. And yeah, I just did kind of the tops of the arrow because obviously you won't see the bottom, but you know, I think I'm pretty confident on how it's looking so far, so I think it'll dry a little darker, which will be perfect. I'm going to caulk the sides there and the bottom. Take this board's going to come out. I'm going to caulk everything, and then when I go to pour this to save on epoxy, I'm going to basically put this board down in the bottom to eat up some space, and it'll be like black epoxy along the bottom, black over here, black over here. I'm going to let that all settle, and then I'm going to go ahead and put all the leaves down. So I got all these bloody leaves that are going to go on top of this log, kind of through here, kind of like this, but it'll be leaves, and then I'll put the arrow down, and then it'll be clear the rest of the way up, and then obviously a clear coat on top. Probably one mistake I made, I should have just let the caulking dry for as long as I could, but I was getting a little impatient, which, you know, I'm gonna, after I get everything in here, and I'm gonna caulk this gap. Like I said, my game plan here, and I'm gonna try, hopefully it'll work, is to put a lot of the caulking through there to hold the epoxy in the middle, and then when I'm done, I'm gonna probably take off about an inch or a half inch or whatever I got to take off here with my table saw, or I might go get a bigger circular saw, like a 6-inch. I think it's a 6.5. I don't really remember what I saw, but a bigger circular saw to shoot that straight, and then probably take off, you know, 1/4 inch, half inch on this side. But my game plan here is going to be to save on the epoxy. I'm going to put this, this was part of a cedar when I was milling the wood that I found, or that I had from the end of a log, and so I'm going to basically utilize that in the bottom, and then when you look at it from the bottom, it'll obviously look pretty cool on the bottom. I mean, not that you're ever going to look at it on the bottom, but yeah, this is the game plan. I just poured the black epoxy on the bottom here. This is going to be just the bottom part of the table. I use this charcoal black mica powder, or however you pronounce it, but it turned out pretty good. I'm going to let it bubble up for a second here and then hit it with the torch. Obviously you won't really see this part, so that part doesn't matter a ton, but I don't want a bunch of air bubbles in this, so but this is, so I I made one mistake in making the mold. I should have put the tape down on all the boards first and then put it all together. At this point I'm just doing obviously it's melamine board, so hopefully this stuff doesn't stick too much to it, and I can pry it off. But I just did a patch tape job, as you can see on the sides there, and then the bricks are obviously just to hold that board down while this cures. But pretty pumped with that color. I'm going to use that again on something else. It's pretty sweet stuff. But I calculated, or I didn't even calculate, I guessed that part being right at about 50 ounces of epoxy, and I nailed it. I mean, I don't have a drop left, and I didn't go over. I didn't want it to go much higher than that. Now I can lay all the leaves down on top. If there's little gaps in the leaves, at least there's some black on the bottom then, and so that'll look pretty cool. And then when I go to put the arrow on, and then we do the next coat of epoxy, the clear coat, I'm going to do the thick pour stuff. This is just the same stuff I used on my cutting boards. I would say we're about an inch or so thick on this. So I didn't want to waste a bunch of the thick pour stuff just because it's more expensive, but I didn't really end up using a ton of the stuff I just used. So yeah, this I think this is up to 2 inches. This stuff was. I think it's looking pretty cool so far. Feels good to get some epoxy poured. I'm gonna let it sit all day. From what I've seen online, then after it's cured, you just sand it real good, and then we can go ahead and pour the rest of the table here, the clear coat. But looking pretty sweet. Can't wait to be able to take the bricks off after it's cured and see what it looks like then, and start laying the leaves out. You know, it's not exactly, you know, all the way up to the top like I was hoping, but at the same time I made a little slot so the arrow vein can kind of sit there and it's level, and then I had to make a little groove right there so that when this thing's laying in there, it's in place when we go to do the pour, because one of the things I'm really worried about is that it's going to turn in there when I'm doing the pour, the arrow will, because there's nothing holding it down. So we're going to do it all carefully, and if anything, we're going to learn. Here we are with the black, charcoal black, first coat, first pour of epoxy. Okay, I've got it all laid out how I want it, logo showing, all the leaves and everything how I want them. I even put a little deer hair that I had from a mount on the broadhead there. Now I'm in hopes that all of this stays intact when I do the pour, but this is the idea right here, and yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and send it here. Gonna mix up, it's a super clear epoxy is what the brand is. So that stuff there, it's a 2-to-1 deep pour. Got to mix it by hand for 5 to 8 minutes. So I'm gonna start mixing it and get it ready to go, and I'll try to get a video, get my wife to come hold the camera when I'm pouring this in. But hopefully everything kind of lays down once the weight of the epoxy gets on it. I'm just gonna go slow. Got some cool acorns in there, just cool little stuff to mix in, kind of make it look realistic. A little piece of grass, you know, just like when you walk up on your arrow after you shoot one. So we'll see how this ends up going, and yeah, stay tuned for pouring the thick pour epoxy. It's not exactly like I hoped it would go, guys. Take my mask off for a sec. So it looked good as I kept going. I got to my 4th 64-ounce mix, and as I kept adding it, stuff kept floating to the top there. So I probably should have stopped at about, you know, halfway up and let it all cure and just let it be. It would have been really hard to burn off though, the bubbles, but yeah, now I've done the whole pour. Everything's kind of floating to the top, so I adjusted the game plan to save it. I put a rock there and a rock over there, trying to make it look as natural as I can. And then as everything kind of floats to the top, I'm gonna kind of let it be. And now my game plan is gonna be, once the whole table's cured, I'm just gonna coat it with epoxy over and over again until all that stuff's pretty much in the middle of the, or pretty much covered, the stuff that is sticking up. So I think I can save it and make it look cool. And then just as I finish it, give it enough to get, the only thing that might stick up would be that rock. But I mean, I'm cool with it. This is for my own personal, you know, it's not for a customer or anything. But yeah, I just learned a lot doing this, and try to get that guy over there out of my cut. We're just gonna try again another time with the bow hunter theme, but I think when I do it again, I'm going to stop at the halfway point and let everything sit as it, you know, and do it in stages. That'd be the best way to do it. If you guys are gonna try this, that's gonna be the best way to do it. Pour about half of your river table, you know, pour that first pour half, get that thing, you know, if it's floating a little bit, get everything how you want it, let it sit down there, and then pour it again. I mean, I probably rushed this getting all amped up because it was looking sweet, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go for the whole thing, and now I'm in this boat. But I think it's savable. I think it still looks cool, and you know, I learned more for next time. I'm gonna hit it with the torch again here on some of these bubbles and just keep an eye on it, see how everything kind of turns out. All right, I got it out of the mold here. Not in bad shape. I've hit it with a little sanding block, but I'm about to get the sander out and sand everything down. You know, the only couple things, there's a few things that floated to the top that I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to seal. When I seal the top here, I'm gonna just have to do, I think, a couple coats of epoxy and get it the best I can, but I'll have to live with stuff sitting on the top here. I mean, it's not gonna be perfect, but lesson learned on this one. I'm probably gonna pour, when I do this again, I'm gonna pour it halfway. The other thing I'm noticing is some of that paint from the red paint came off slash changed the color just a little bit. Not terrible, but you know, I might try a different paint the next time. It looks great, you know, dried on the arrow, but once you add the epoxy chemical, it kind of changed it a little bit, but it doesn't look terrible, you know. It didn't ruin it. It's still a usable desk, and you know, I'm actually pretty pumped for my first ever epoxy resin pour, especially deep pour. This is better than I actually probably should have been realistic expectations on how it's going to go. It turned out pretty cool though. It's not ruined, but it's not, you know, you have visions of everything being perfect when you're done, and sometimes that's not the case. But I'm going to go ahead and sand down as much of this stuff as I can. Looks like, you know, this wood's just so unlevel underneath because I didn't plane the bottom. I wasn't really worried about the bottom, but the way some of it cured, I'm gonna have to sand it down and then just, you know, make sure it's completely level when I do the top coats, and you know, give it a good thick top coat, a couple thick top coats, and call it a desk. But you know, I'm pumped that I was able to keep this live edge along the side, and then I still have to make my cut on the edge here and take that off. And you know, it came off really good actually. Even with me not doing that tape job, it still came out pretty good. And yeah, I'm not too disappointed. I think it turned out pretty decent for the first try. Kept some of the, you know, the blood on the leaves and stuff. Looks pretty cool. Okay, I've made my cuts. You know, I had to use a 14-inch concrete saw I had to make the cuts, but made my cuts. I've sanded as much as I could. You know, I could just keep going on this. There's a few little imperfections, but you know, I'm not, with this being a rough edge, and I'm not going for an exactly smooth, you know, one of those, what do you call it, like river tables where they just, everything is just like a sheet of ice, perfectly smooth. I know that's not what we're getting with this, just because of the, you know, the few mess ups I had with acorns, leaves, twigs, etc. So I've sanded everything down. I've worked out a lot of these bubbles. And so here goes, you know, I've worked down to this, you know, where these little white bubbles, I'm hoping when I put the epoxy down, I've sanded this so friggin' much. I don't know how else to get all that, but you know, there's a lot of bubble spots. I've worked a lot of that stuff out. Got it to where now hopefully when I put this coat of epoxy, everything kind of pops. You know, we roughed it up. I used a 220. I didn't have a 320 at the time. A 220. I took off all the epoxy. You know, I'm hoping this stain stuff goes away once I seal it all. I've really worked at sanding this a lot, and I'm just I'm to the point now where we're just going to kind of see what happens with it. I can only sand so much on this thing, and then I'm going to give it another crack another time. So for my first try, I'm happy with how it's going. I got it about as level as I'm going to get it here. So we're going to go ahead and mix up the epoxy and start getting this down here on the wood and see how it ends up looking here. Stay tuned for the first coat finished up. I'm going to come back out and blow out the bubbles here in about 20 minutes. They're already got a crack in the wood there, a little bit coming in throughout, but I'm going to let this kind of sit and self-level here and smooth out some of the rough spots here. And when I come back, hopefully I can get all the bubbles out, and looking pretty good so far. I'm liking it. I had a mosquito that got in there already, but part of the game here with all these bugs. But here it is with the first coat on. A little cloudy in there, making me a little nervous, but it was cloudy over here when I first poured. Might just be needing to buff out chemical wise, but we'll see what it shapes out like. All right, getting toward the end of finishing this table project. Right here is what I have for an idea for the legs and everything. So I just went to Menards. I got, I think it's just gas line pipe, but I'm gonna paint it matte black. I got everything tightened down how I want it, and we'll screw it onto the table once it's painted here. But this is the back part. I don't really care about that opening showing. I couldn't find the actual well, crap, those don't match, but anyways. Looks like I got a 6-way there and a 5-way there. That's the back end of the table. I don't really care. It's going to be up against a wall, so that is, you know, I could eventually go get the piece if that bugs me, but I'm done going to Menards for a bit. And yeah, this is pre-painted, what it looks like. Oh shoot, I should have taken a quick video before I started sanding on this. So You can kind of see though over on this side, it cured a little foggy over here. And then I got a couple bubbles that I'm going to work out. I'm going to sand the whole thing down and give it one more coat on the whole thing, one more flood coat. Probably a little lighter this time, and then I'm going to call it good. You know, a couple of the mistakes I made this time that, you know, next time I think I'm going to seal the entire wood before I do any epoxy. One reason, I got this stain from the deep pour. It's not going to bug me too much. You know, if this was for a customer or somebody, I would not take the corners like I did, but you know, a lot of this was just a learning experience for me. You know, overall it's really a clear pour and looks good. There's a lot of things I'd do differently if I did this again. You can see I got a few air bubbles here. It's not absolutely perfect, but for my own personal desk, I'm pretty pumped with how it's looking. You know, I love this thick cedar slab. It's about just over 3 inches thick, so it was a deep pour. You can see the different, you know, the different, there was the black, and then with my cut in that saw, I used I'll show you the saw I used. That's the saw I used right there. Used it for my landscaping company when I owned it to cut bricks and pavers and blocks, retaining wall blocks. So was not using it for tables, but that's the saw I had to use to get through that big table. The next table I do is probably going to be about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to slab it right at about 2 1/4 with my chainsaw mill. That way I can rip it with the circular saw, make things a lot cleaner, not use as much epoxy, but I already had these slabs, and I like the thickness of these slabs here. You know, and for my, like I said, for my own desk this works, but as you can see, it's not the cleanest cut on the side, but it's better than how I had it before. With, you know, there's a lot of things I could have done differently. I could have built a frame, built a square frame, you know, for my epoxy when I made the mold there, that mold. And then what I've seen people do is that they set the frame on the wood, trace the frame so you're exactly the size of the frame, trace the inside of the frame, and then cut your boards. So then when you go to lay them in there, everything's flush. That would have saved me a lot of extra time here. But this is going to be a good tutorial on the things that I would do differently. So if you're wanting to make one of these tables, I still have to figure out a different method for the paint. I'm not, you know, super satisfied with it. I think it looks great. Looks pretty realistic, but you know, like the leaves and stuff turned out great. But I feel like on the veins would be where I'd want it to be a little different, maybe a little bit. The broadhead looks good, but I'm gonna play around with it when I do another one, and then, you know, I'm gonna probably start doing these, take some orders on them, and do these for some people's hunting lodges or personal desks, etc. And I'm just gonna do a bunch of other epoxy river tables, because I'm really getting into this and liking doing this. It's just time consuming, and obviously we have hunting season coming up, so that will be tough for me to do anything during that time. But after the season, I'll probably be back at these and keep learning. Just like you know, just like I thought it would go. I knew there would be some bumps in the road, but you know, overall I'm pretty pleased with how the table's turning out. So I'm gonna go wipe off that the frame that I'm using for the desk and the legs. I'm gonna go wipe them off and then paint them quick. I'm the world's worst spray painter, but here it is. It's supposed to dry matte black, so that is what the bottle says. But as you can see, a few drips and stuff. I might have to sand that off and retry a little bit on some of that. Just kind of trying to buff them out a little, but yeah, not terrible. Nothing, a little sanding and pain can't fix. There, I just got all the legs on. I got a sand, I didn't pay attention to underneath. That's something you want to do on that float coat, is to pay attention for these drips. So I got to sand all that off, but obviously the bottom I'm not as worried about. Looking awesome because it's my own desk. Excuse the train coming in. So yeah, let's flip this over, see what it looks like with the legs on. Got it. I just got it all sanded down for the final coat. I got the drip. Sorry, I got my respirator on still. I got the drip sanded down. Ready to do the last, use the shadow. Ready to do the last coat here. So I'm gonna clean out the garage, get everything ready to go, wipe this down with the denatured alcohol, clean it off real good, get it ready for that coat. All cleaned off, ready to go. I sanded it down a little bit. I'm trying to take a little bit of that fogginess out. I don't know how well it's going to work, but you know, I'm just going to have to accept it if that's, you know, if I mix it wrong or whatever. I got a lot of the other imperfections buffed out. You know, it's looking, I'm pretty pleased with it for my first time here, but yeah, we're going to get the, I'm not going to go as thick on this flood coat this time. I'm going to just do probably 10 ounces less than the last time when I mixed it up. So I think last time I did 10 and 10. This time I'm going to go like probably 7 and 7 and see how much epoxy that gets me. That should be enough to cover this, but I'm gonna use a plastic putty knife this time to spread it along the top, and then we're gonna, you know, let me double check everything's level. That's another thing, you always gotta check if it's level. And we're gonna mix it up and pour it. So stop here. Here it is. Here we are, final coat on. I'm pretty pleased with it. I didn't get a lot of the, if you look close, a little foggy in here. I kind of messed my mix up on the first flood coat apparently in there. I didn't handle it right, but it's not killing the table. Overall, I think it looks pretty good. Obviously, a few things that I could have done differently throughout the whole thing, but you know, these little acorns sticking up kind of gives it its own character. Like I said, it's my personal desk. If you are going to do this, take the time to do that first, you know, half-inch pour, get everything where you want it, let it cure, and get everything down toward the bottom, because obviously this has a lot of dimension. You know, you can see there's layers of leaves, which is cool. I mean, I'm okay with it, but if you were to do this, you know, see at the, obviously I wanted everything to sit at the bottom and there to be, you know, this much epoxy above everything. So it's kind of play with it how you, sorry for the glare there, play with it how you want it to look. If you end up doing this, comment on our video, let us know how it went. If you found some better solutions or ways I can do it better, comment. If you have any questions at all, I am no professional epoxy table maker, but I've learned a lot from this, and I think there's a lot of things that I can, you know, a lot of insight I can bring when it comes to doing this exact type of table, just from mess ups I had. You know, there's a few imperfections throughout. There's little leaves on top of it, but you know, this is my first table. I'm pretty pumped with how it's turning out. I can't complain. And you know, it's going to be a cool desk for me to edit hopefully some sweet hunting videos here this fall. All right, before I go, I have a couple quick tips for you. If you are going to make one of these tables, there are a few things I would highly recommend doing. One would be fill your arrow with some sort of weight. Take the knockoff, fill it with sand. That's gonna be my next try, is I'm gonna fill it with sand, maybe some fishing weights, small fishing weights that fit in there. Something that's gonna hold that arrow down when the epoxy gets poured in so it doesn't float to the top like I had. It did cause me some issues. I had to throw some rocks in there, as you saw, and it didn't go exactly as I planned because of that part. So that's option one, or you can just pour half of that pour, get everything stuck, wait, you know, leave the epoxy tacky for then when you go to pour the next part. They say to leave it tacky before you do the next pour. So that's my first suggestion. My second one would be, when you go to make your melamine or whatever wood you're using for your forms, go ahead and square everything up, put it on top of your wood and cut the wood exactly so it'll fit in that form before you pour the epoxy. I wasted so much time. I had to go buy a wood blade for a concrete saw just to cut through this thick you know, slab I had, and that would be another recommendation. Don't go super thick to where you can at least get a circular saw through this table when you go to make it. But yeah, do that, square everything up, get it cut before you pour the epoxy so you don't have to cut and then sand as much as I did. I wasted so much time doing that. So that'd be the second recommendation. The third would be, take your time while mixing this epoxy. I got that foggy look to mine because, you know, I didn't, either my ratio was off between the hardener and the other epoxy, or maybe I got too much air in it using the drill mixer. There's a lot of videos out there that teach you how to do this. I kind of rushed a few steps on this because I was getting so excited to get this thing poured. And next time I do it, I'm gonna just go nice and slow and, you know, make sure I'm doing it right so I can avoid all that stuff. Those are some 3 quick tips. Obviously you saw a lot of mistakes in the video too. If you're gonna do this and you figure something out, throw it in the comments. If you have some questions, same thing. We will answer any comments on these videos. But this was fun to put together for you guys. It's something that, you know, I've been wanting to do for a while, and I got a chance to do it here before season. But now we are turning our focus toward hunting season, which is the primary reason we made this channel. And we have a sweet bear hunt coming up. We're really hoping for Jake's success on that. And we have some great whitetails coming up. The season starts in 9 days here in Nebraska. We have a trip to Missouri this year. We have a lot of things planned, and this is gonna be a fun year for us. And we have a lot of bucks we're going after, so I'm super excited to see what we're gonna have unfold for the whole season. Up next, I'm gonna show you guys the unveiling, whatever you'd say. This is the first time you guys are gonna see our season 3 intro for the year. So that'll follow up right after this video ends. Hopefully you guys enjoy the new intro we have. And like always, if you could like this video, you know, comment if you have any questions, you know, compliments, or if you didn't like it or whatever, throw it in the comments. We don't care. We just love to see comments. And we love when you guys subscribe or share our page for other people to subscribe. Our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers this year, and we are at about the halfway point. So any bit of subscriptions, likes, comments, all of that's helping us out, guys, and we really do appreciate it. We also really appreciate you guys watching Drawn Outdoors TV. Check out the new intro for season 3 right now.